In the tunnel.
In the tunnel.
In the tunnel. You're listening to In the Tunnel.
Hello and welcome to In the Tunnel, episode number 102. Today we talk about the NFL. Specifically, we're going to focus on fantasy. We're going to take a look at what we did in terms of who we thought would be good last year, and we will see who we think should be good this year, along with a few sleepers.
Yep, and then maybe talk some team preview, what we think is going to happen as we run through. Maybe just run through some of the divisions at the end.
Yeah.
Just a quick fire off, over under.
Right. So let's start with quarterbacks, right? So both of us had Mahomes. He did pretty well. He was fourth in the ranking. You pulled this all off the same site, right? So then,
Fantasy pros.
yep. I had Allen, Wilson, Rodgers, and Prescott. You had Burrow, Herbert, Murray, and Winston. You kind of your picks unfortunately didn't work out mostly because Winston got hurt after 5 weeks, was it?
I don't know, something like that.
Something like that. And
But
then Murray fell off a cliff after like 10 games.
Yeah. I mean, and we talked about this briefly, but I think there was a reasonable expectation that because it was a Cliff Kingsbury team, that they were eventually going to fall off because that just seems to be the consistency of which that coach works at.
Yeah.
He's very good at, when we get to November, they'll be sitting pretty in theory, and it just won't last.
Yeah. Also, I had the unfortunate end of Russell Wilson, and we can talk about that later because of some of our other picks.
Yeah, I mean, look, uh, nobody knew that Russell Wilson was just. He had bad offensive lines for like the entirety of his career.
Career, literally.
And he's only in his early 30s, I think. And for him to just be like, I've had enough of running around, even though that's what made him such a good quarterback.
Yep.
He
Yeah.
did get hurt for a couple games too, but
Yeah. So just a small correction on this list: Joe Burrow was 8th.
yes.
But
But he did
otherwise,
bad math.
yeah. Otherwise, like we had a couple people. We both had 4 people in the top 10 and
Mm-hmm.
one outside. So we did
Not
pretty
bad.
good.
I mean, I always like to, for whatever reason, I always like to kind of like throw in a guy who's listed outside the top 15 who I think will move up into the top 5. Because that's how fantasy works, is
True.
there's always something out of nowhere that comes up.
Yeah. All right. Let's look at running backs, and the opposite happened for me, right? So I had McCaffrey, Kamara, Cook, Henry, and Eckler. You had Henry, Kamara, Taylor, Chubb, and Barkley.
Yeah, and, stupid me, I trusted the New York Giants offensive line to, protect a running back, and they decided that that was not in their best interest.
Nope.
So,
And then I just chose a brittle running back, I guess. I still think he's, like, if he's healthy, he's really good. That's my thing.
if he's healthy, he's a PPR threat.
Yeah.
But if he's healthy, he at this point in his career, like going forward, is probably not a top 5 threat
Yeah.
because he's had enough injuries to just not be worth it.
Uh-huh.
Like will have, load management.
True. But I still think, like, he can catch. So,
He can. It would actually probably be better for him to line up as a receiver
yeah.
more.
Yeah, probably. All right, yeah. So I took the short end of this one because of McCaffrey. You trusting the Giants' offensive line landed you only in 30.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, look, we both trusted Derrick Henry, which I think was the right thing to do
oh yeah,
because of how Tennessee's offense is lined up. I don't think anybody was expecting that Derrick Henry was going to have like a broken bone in his foot that would keep him out to like the playoffs. But
yep. All right, and then we have wide receivers where I got really shafted by Calvin Ridley ranking 102nd, where both of us probably don't agree with exactly being 102nd.
yeah, because he just didn't play.
Yeah, but
He took the mental break away from football. In that mental break, he decided to become a gambler and he parlayed. Which, for the record, if you're going to bet in favor of your team and that team is absolute garbage like the Falcons were last year, you shouldn't be suspended. That's like the ultimate cheerleader.
but I mean,
Like,
it sets a
I'm
precedent.
willing to put the money you pay me on you guys when I'm not playing.
It sets a precedence, though.
It does, but look, we could talk about how good the Reds were when Pete Rose was managing them and betting on them, because Pete Rose apparently bet on the Reds every day. You know, that's somebody who, yes, you can say is delusional and has no sense of like reality, but he thought he was doing a damn good coaching job if he was willing to put money on it. So,
Yeah. Both of us had Devonte Adams, Tariq Hill, and DeAndre Hopkins. Where we differed was I had Stefan Diggs, you had DK Metcalf, and I had Ridley, you had McLaurin.
yeah, Metcalf did okay for me, but
Yeah.
when Geno Smith is part of the solution at quarterback,
Hmm.
there's only so much you can do. So,
Yeah. All right. And then tight ends, where you had the same happen to you as I had in receiver with Smith
Irv Smith
Jr.
Jr., yep, of the Vikings. And look, for the longest time, Kirk Cousins liked throwing to Kyle Rudolph in the red zone.
Hmm.
Kyle Rudolph went to the Giants. So I thought it was a no brainer red zone target. If they ever fucking get down there, I don't like missing field goals too much.
Yeah.
Um, so I thought it would have worked, and then he immediately got injured.
Yeah.
So kudos
But
to him.
both of us had Kelsey, Kittle, and Pitts. Or no, I had
Kyle
Pitts, you had
Pitts.
Waller. Or no, we both had Waller.
Yeah, we both had Waller. I was fringe on Kyle Pitts because he was a rookie, and I just didn't understand, making him a top threat that early on. Which
Right.
is weird because in actual fantasy football, I'm pretty sure I drafted him. But
My thing was like when I was looking at all the players and looking at okay, what do other people say about these players? I just couldn't exclude Pitts at the end of the day.
yeah, I thought for a rookie it was too much Kool Aid.
True, true.
Can't drink too much of it. So,
Yeah,
I
so
mean, he was on and off. It wasn't until late in the year that he actually
he
kind of
took
got going.
off late in the year.
Yeah.
But yeah, so out of these averages, I ended up with slightly less, but we both had pretty good picks in our, five. We had probably like three out of the five of them in the top 10 in most cases, aside
Yeah.
from running back for me.
I mean, I'll take 3 out of 5. It's not
Yeah,
the worst news.
yeah, because to be fair, I was probably not drafting all these players. I was just like, these are who I thought would be good
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah, no, there's no chance in hell you're getting top 5 position.
Mm-hmm. All right, so let's see who we pick for this year. You want to go through your QBs?
Yeah, so I mean, look, I think at this point it's proven that Patrick Mahomes, it doesn't really matter it's kind of like Aaron Rodgers. It doesn't really matter who the wide receivers are. So like this year, it's Valdez Scantling and Juju Smith-Schuster.
Yeah.
I I don't think it
Yeah.
matters who it is. He'll find a way to get the ball to him.
Yeah.
Still has Travis Kelsey as the safety blanket.
Yeah.
So, and then Joe Burrow at this point, if you don't think that, like, I mean, you just see Boyd, Chase, and Higgins. You kind of have, and you understand how many yards all three of those guys got.
Mm-hmm.
There's reason to believe that, plus a balanced attack with Joe Mixon will yield similar results from last year.
Okay.
And Burrow is still young enough to, potentially rush when needed.
Yeah, I
Still
think
not
he's gonna slow
like
down in that aspect.
depends on the offensive line.
Fair enough.
If the offensive line becomes a strength for them, then I'm sure he would love for it to slow down. But
Yeah.
you know,
And then
the
both of
long-
us have Herbert. We both have Mahomes. We both have Herbert.
yeah, I took Herbert in my league last year, and I think that he is a guy who's MVP, ready. It's just going to come down to team performance on if he actually gets the MVP award.
Yeah, true.
But Eckler's more of a receiving back, and he's going to ball out. That's just what good quarterbacks for the Chargers do.
True.
I took Stafford because I just don't believe that running game is equipped to do a lot.
See,
And
I
as-
agree with that, but I just couldn't put Stafford in my picks. I just couldn't.
Well, Stafford was top 10 last year.
True.
I don't think a lot of people realize that statistically and Stafford, we can go back to the Detroit days and relive the past as much as anybody else. The fact of the matter is he holds all the records for passing, but just never media-wise gets the attention for what he's done in the history of his career.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead and say he's consistently done it for his whole career, and why should that stop?
Yeah, true. Okay. And you have Justin Field.
I have Justin Fields because Matt Nagy is not there anymore.
Yeah,
And
okay.
apparently, from what I've heard, Matt Nagy hated the idea of a running quarterback, hated the idea of a mobile quarterback, being outside the pocket. He wanted Justin Fields to be this quick read machine and get the ball out quick.
Yeah.
And on top of that, they wanted to do mostly ground game, first, second down run, and then pass as needed on third down, which doesn't suit his kind of arsenal and skill set. But now there's a different coach.
Yeah. So, to be fair,
there's been a-
for me, Justin Fields was I was debating if I'm putting Jackson, Hurts, or Fields, basically.
I think that regardless of if it's top 5 or not, he is going to do a lot better this year.
Yeah, I would agree. Again, I think he's just outside of the 5 I feel most confident in doing really good.
Look, but the thing is, because it's fantasy football, you don't have to be extremely confident in a mobile quarterback.
True.
That's why a lot of people would love Tyrod Taylor. You knew that Tyrod Taylor couldn't throw the ball for, a high accuracy a lot of the time, but he would improvise and get you those rushing yards.
True.
So
Yeah, I mean,
we're still at a point where Justin Fields is figuring that out, and that lends itself to a fantasy owner. Because when
I
you're
would
figuring
agree.
out how to play quarterback, you scramble a lot.
Yeah, for me, I just don't think I could have gotten rid of Josh Allen from my list.
I think, for me, I think he's destined to take a step back at some point. It may not be
I
this year.
agree, but do I think it's I still don't think it's a huge step. I don't think it's outside the top
Right.
10. Like,
Right, but are we saying that? And I understand this is we're talking two different molds, but we're not saying that he's Peyton Manning,
no,
and where Peyton Manning was going to keep delivering
no.
that same high ceiling every year because of like his ability to audible out of everything. Josh Allen is what's around him, and I think Stephon Diggs is going to hit some kind of regression to a degree. Maybe the regression that I thought last year. Um,
Hmm.
People don't seem to be high on Dawson Knox, which I think is kind of weird. But in terms of quarterbacks, I'm going for guys who I know are going to put up the yards.
Hmm. True,
I
true.
think maybe it's traditional that I think that like I don't think even in PPR about the rushing for a quarterback.
No.
Like that's secondary to me.
Yeah, I'd agree. But yeah,
That's why I don't have Lamar either. Also, the fact that Lamar just finds new ways to get hurt or like miss games.
yeah, that
Like
like I agree. I like mobile quarterbacks in that sense. That's why I put him there. Um, I like if he doesn't get hurt, I think he can have like a more standout season.
yeah, and I will say this. Looking at your list, rounding it out, you have Jalen Hurts on your list as well. Um, I think this is a make or break year for him.
Oh yeah, that's why
Like
I think he
they,
has to show up.
he has AJ Brown now.
Yeah,
They, I mean, they
I
may
think
not have the best running game, but
I
he's
think he
got
has to
weapons.
show up though. Like it is that kind of year.
If he doesn't show up, he's a second round pick, and he will have one more year of contract next year, and then they'll just let him go.
Hmm.
But between Zach Pascal, who came over from the Colts, Devontae Smith, and AJ Brown, and Dallas Goddard, there's no reason why you can't do something there.
Yeah, okay. Let's look at running backs, and I'll go first. I stick to most of the known running backs, mostly because I don't factor in running game a lot. I tend to focus more on wide receivers. So I haven't really looked at like running back depth in a grand scheme of things. Um,
Mm-hmm.
because like I was trying to figure out who I would knock McCaffrey for, but I just couldn't look at all those stats.
So, I mean, why don't you just like say the entirety of your list because we do have to do
Yeah.
audio version of the
So I
podcast.
have Jonathan Taylor, Austin Eckler, Derrick Henry, Dalvin Cook, and McCaffrey, right?
Yep, and I have Joe Mixon, Najee Harris, Nick Chubb, DeAndre Swift, and Javante Williams.
Right.
I took a couple stretch picks here,
Yeah.
but
And I
I
stuck with most of what I had.
yeah, and look, I do think to a degree, like we said earlier, that if McCaffrey can play more of a wide receiver role, it doesn't really matter because of how the system is built.
Yes.
Um,
Especially. Yeah.
so
But I do
I don't
like
see
so
why
I
you
like some
can't.
of your picks. Like uh I think Chubb's still gonna do good. Najee
Yeah,
Harris.
so this is where it's interesting. Nick Chubb. So we know Deshaun Watson at the very least is suspended 6 games.
Yes.
The NFL wants more. So at the very least, we're going to see. I don't even know who's quarterback to for Cleveland.
All I know
Maybe
is
looking
Cleveland's
like
paying Baker Mayfield like 600K to play against them or something.
so, but Jacoby Brissett.
Oh,
So
Brissett.
Jacoby Brissett's number 2, and he's fine. Was a starter back in the day for the Colts, but you
Yeah.
know that you're going to have at least 6 weeks to figure out who your next running back is going to be
Hmm.
because Nick Chubb is going to handle the rock for at least the first 6.
Yep.
Najee Harris, there's, I think it's now a 2 quarterback race between Pickett and Trubisky. I think Rudolph's going to get traded.
Hmm.
Um, but if Pickett eventually steps in, and even if Trubisky starts, I think the goal is to not put too much play calling or decision making into the quarterback's hands this
I would
year.
agree with that.
Um, DeAndre Swift, I think that he was injured last year, but he's still very young. The thing is I think that Dan Campbell in Detroit are building a culture of tough nosed football, and because of that, having watched some of the behind the scenes of what they're trying to build in their front office, I'm going to take one of my risk picks on that because I feel like they want to run the ball. That
Huh?
you want to play hard nosed football, and you got a power back in DeAndre Swift who's there for that reason. Um, and also, I think that between Amon-Ra St. Brown, DJ Chark, they have enough wide receivers and TJ Hawkinson at tight end to have a balanced attack.
True.
So I value a balanced attack, but over a team that's run heavy or pass heavy,
Mm-hmm.
because then they can come at you with different facets each week. And Javonte Williams, I think he was number 1 or 2 in rushing yards for rookies last year. I think that the addition of Russell Wilson makes it a stronger opportunity for him to get touches. Maybe not more touches, but more value out of those touches.
I could see that.
Because last year it was Teddy Bridgewater.
Mm-hmm.
But now you actually have somebody who is going to get the ball to Jerry Judy, to Cortland Sutton, Tim Patrick, KJ Hamler.
Mm-hmm.
Like they have receivers that lend itself, and I don't think that Melvin Gordon is as much of a threat
I agree.
to take carries like he was the past 2 years.
Yeah.
But let's go through yours.
I already went through mine, right? Like, I think they're more already known, and I don't think you can go wrong, except for McCaffrey, which I just couldn't figure out who I would knock for him because I don't pay attention to a lot of the running back stats.
So I guess, like looking at your list, me personally, I'm doubling down on my take from last year that Dalvin Cook is going to regress a bit.
Yeah, but I still think Eckler is. I don't. I think Eckler is still going to be really good this year.
I think Eckler is going to be really good because of Justin Herbert. I think Jonathan Taylor is not likely to be the number 1 running back anymore. Probably top 10, but
Yeah,
I just don't see like that offensive line that was really strong his first few years is not getting
not there.
younger. They lost wide receiver pieces. I don't think T.Y. Hilton is there anymore. I know
No,
Pascal left. So they have Pittman, but who else do they have?
I think that's
So
basically it.
so I think there's a lot expected of Jonathan Taylor,
Mm-hmm.
and when there's a lot expected, that's kind of where things maybe fall, but I'm sure he'll be still very good.
Yeah.
They got rid of Carson Wentz, so
Yeah. All right. Let's take a look at wide receivers. So I have Cooper Kupp, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Stephon Diggs, and Devontae Adams. Um, I don't think you can go wrong with Cooper Kupp. While he probably ain't gonna have the same season he did last year, he's still gonna be up there.
and
Um,
I have go ahead.
yeah,
I
we
want to
both
I
have
want to hear
Kupp,
you out.
right?
Yes, we
Uh,
both have Cup. I think that's a no-brainer. I
yeah,
think at
and
this point, the connection between Stafford and Cup is hard to pass up.
Yeah, and then I still think Stefan Diggs is going to be top 10. I just don't see why you drop either of them from the list of how they did last year, right?
I think because we know that Gabriel Davis, as good as he was in that AFC Championship game or whatever game, no, that was divisional game.
Division.
But we know what he's capable of, but we know that because of what he did, that there's going to be more of an eye on him now.
Yes.
So because of that, you can't double team everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, maybe Davis is the one who gets more PPR points this year. because of that, because Diggs is the one that still gets doubled. But if not, if defenses decide to pick a side instead of a receiver by name, then Stephon Diggs is still going to get it. And we're still talking PPR. There's still
Yeah.
screen passes. There's still a number of ways to get him involved.
Oh yeah.
Which is kind of the reason why I have Deebo Samuel on my list.
Okay.
I think it's wild that, Deebo Samuel is ranked as low as he is for a wide receiver. I think he was ranked somewhere in the teens.
Oh really? Because
I just don't.
I really think I would put him that he could get top 10 numbers, no problem.
So, I mean, this magazine I have open here has him ranked 17th on wide receiver.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Despite the fact that he was also the leading rusher for the 49ers last year. And I don't think that they're going to use him as much of a rusher this year,
Okay.
but that threat is
Still
always
there. Still there.
Yeah. And then I have Jamar Chase as well because again the connection with Joe Burrow is just nothing.
I think you can't go away from that.
Yeah. And then I had Stephon Diggs as well. Cooper Kupp. And then my wild card is Cortland Sutton because I think, again, like I said, Russell Wilson being there, the real thing for me is going to be, is Jerry Jeudy going to take the points or is it going to be Cortland Sutton?
Yeah,
we now have
good question.
We now have a Russell Wilson in mile-high altitude. That ball's going to be flying.
Yep.
And, Cortland Sutton, before he got hurt last year, the years before that, the 2 or 3 years before that, was putting up over 10 to 15 points per game.
Yeah.
So if he's still young enough to assume that he isn't going to slow down, and he's 26 and he's 6'4", I think there's reason to believe he's going to return to form.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah.
Also, I'm gonna throw in a wild card of Hunter Renfrow.
Oh, okay. I don't know. I think that's more out there.
They're gonna double Adams. They're gonna double Waller. Hunter Renfrow got a lot of points last year.
Fair enough. Yeah, but I really think most of the picks, most of what we have here, because we have 3 of the same people, are pretty safe.
Well, and I don't want to touch on this too much, but I want to quiz you on something. How many catches do you think Renfrow had last year?
Like catches total?
Yeah, receptions.
I don't know. Did he catch like an average of 8 per game or something? Something ridiculous?
Doesn't give me that math.
How many catches did he have? I can tell you.
103.
103. If he played 16 games, right? No, so it's probably 6, 7, 7, 7, 10, 70, 7, 6s.
128
30.
targets.
Yes, so it's approximately 6 to 7 a game.
Which is, he wasn't always getting the yardage, but because of Darren Waller being doubled, he was open.
True. Okay.
And I think that I don't see that changing now that Devontae Adams is there.
Okay.
So he had 1,038 yards on 103 catches. And 100+ catches is a lot.
A lot.
So for PPR, take him.
300 points right there.
I would gladly take that out of any receiver.
Yep. All right. Let's look at tight ends. So I have Kelce, Pitts, Kittle, Andrew, and Waller. I just don't think you can go wrong with Kelce. He's still going to be a favorite target of Mahomes. So
and we both have Kyle Pitts. I think Kyle Pitts is a bit more of a wild card this year because, he had a declining Matt Ryan last year, but you know what you were getting out of Matt Ryan this year. It's Marcus Mariota or Desmond Ridder.
True. But I still think Pitts can put up the numbers as long as he can.
I think that because tight end is the ultimate safety blanket for a quarterback position,
Yeah.
It's still a wild card though because Kyle Pitts isn't your traditional tight end.
Right. And both of us also have Darren Waller. I know you were talking about him in the previous slide.
Yeah, I mean, again, I know I said doubling would make Renfro more valuable, but doubling Devontae Adams is going to happen a lot, man.
Mm-hmm.
It just is. So
Yeah,
you
I
go
agree.
for other targets.
Yeah, I agree.
I think Mark Andrews. I think he's probably due to regress a little bit
Yeah.
because we all know what Mark Andrews is.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, Mark Hollywood Brown is gone, and that was Lamar's favorite wideout to throw to.
Mm-hmm.
But his favorite target overall has always been Mark
Yep.
Andrews.
That's why he's still there, even if he's due to regress.
And then I have Dalton Schultz on my list because, like, I think he flies under the radar, but is very good statistically speaking
Mm-hmm.
because he is by far and away. There's something about the Cowboys, like Romo always had Jason Witten. There's something about Prescott that he just loves to throw to Dalton Schultz. And apparently Dalton Schultz was a top 4 finisher last year for tight end.
Oh, dang.
So, um, so I'm going to go ahead and put some investing into Dalton Schultz, and then I'm going to round out my list with Pat Fryermuth because uh, last year he came on strong in the second half as a rookie. I don't think that this, like I said, the Steelers are going to try to give their quarterbacks the ability to throw underneath and give them a safety blanket option as much as possible with either Trubisky or especially Pickett once he gets in.
Mm-hmm.
So if Pickett starts, Fryermuth is probably going to become more valuable.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that.
Rookies have to go to tight ends. That's my thinking here.
They're the safety blanket, right? They're
So
closer.
absolutely, if you have a young quarterback, you absolutely have to be like that check down.
Yep. All right, and finally we have defenses. Both of us have the Rams topping it. And both of us have the 49ers and Bills. You're a bit high on the Steelers, in my opinion. They barely missed out on mine.
So the thing is, if we're valuing this as a defensive unit solely, and we're not talking about the other side of fantasy football, which defense and special teams also get somewhat penalized if you don't have a team that's winning.
Yes.
So
Okay.
if we're just speaking solely, if we're throwing out what the record could be, then defensive unit wise, I think they're primed to be better than last year.
Okay. I mean, I would say you're correct, but I have them just outside of my 5.
That's fine. That's fine. I think, and I understand this is me being a homer. I think that everybody in that organization understands that with that quarterback situation, the defense is going to have to be the driving force.
Mm-hmm. I can see that, yeah.
So they brought in the weapons and the roster additions to try to do that. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to hope that that plays out.
Hopefully for you, yeah. So I have the Bucks and the Ravens at 4-5. And you have the Steelers, and you have the Packers.
I have the Packers because if Aaron Rodgers can deliver a high scoring offense the way that he always has, then
I just have no
like
faith
they
in
just
Aaron
need to
Rodgers
become.
anymore. Like
I
he's still like I don't know. I just think he's like
I
how long?
get
How
that.
much more can he keep it up? Right?
Yeah, but like for a guy who's 39 years old, he's still incredibly mobile for
Yeah,
39.
I'll say that, but I just don't know how much. Like, is it gonna really be the whole season?
Yeah, like mentally, I see. Like, here's the thing. Like, I look at other teams that have stronger defensive units in theory. Like, this magazine has the Dolphins at number 4. That's great, but can I actually trust the Dolphins?
To score anything.
I know this sounds like hypocritical because I took the Steelers, but it's like I can trust the Steelers defensive unit to like force chaos.
Mhm.
Whereas the Dolphins, I don't think they're going to force chaos, and I don't think that the offense is going to help. I think
No.
it's just going to fly under the radar. Um,
I don't think the
and
offense is
then
going to
it's
help.
like
But
the Colts
I
is
can't really
9.
see that. Like, my point is, like, I don't trust the offense of the Steelers enough to allow the defense to be.
Well, I'll say this: like, I think that the Rams are in an interesting spot too because a lot of their core pieces have been defensively around for a
A
very long
while.
time.
Yes.
They're getting older, and I feel like we're going to see eventually that there's going to be some injured players. Like they had to take Eric Weddle out of retirement for the Super Bowl last year. People don't remember that
Yep.
very well. So we'll see how well it holds.
Yeah, true. All right, and finally, we have our sleepers. So you said that Cortland Sutton was going to get a lot of the reps. I actually think that Jerry Jeudy, while I didn't put him in my list,
Mhm.
is going to take a little, like, is going to take a step forward.
Well, he would have to because I think he tore his ACL last year too.
Yeah. So I don't, that's why also Cortland Sutton wasn't in my list. Because
Yeah.
I think you're going to get a little bit more towards Jeudy than what would give Sutton that top 10, top 5 kind of like need, I guess.
Yeah, I also realized that you said David Carr in the Discord chat, which is the quarterback from
Yes.
the early 2000s.
Oh,
Derek Carr.
did I say I meant Derek Carr? I don't even remember what I was typing. It was
Anyway,
12 at night.
That's Sean's second sleeper.
Derek Carr. I think, like, while Derek Carr is not the best quarterback, especially in terms of fantasy points, I think he is going to do better than what most people expect of him.
Yeah.
And then I think Evan Engram, again, while not in the top of tight ends, is gonna do a lot better than what people expect of him.
Yeah.
Those
I mean,
are.
if he can actually catch the ball.
I think he'll get enough where he'll make an impact.
The thing with Evan Ingram has always been, can he catch the ball? He gets the looks,
Yeah.
but he gets less looks as time goes on because when you need him to catch the ball,
It's conveniently on the grass.
Yeah. And then for mine, I have Damian Pierce, the running back for the Texans, who is apparently causing mayhem. Not in a good way, like
Yes, I
forcing
know.
the issue. For the running back position there. Um, I brought Irv Smith Jr. back this year for a mid-tier tight end that I think has the upside to do well,
Yeah.
and I think has the lost name now this year because I think that people have forgotten who he is
Yeah, I would
because
say
he's a
that
tight
because,
end for the Vikings.
to be fair, if I didn't remember that you had him last year as a
You would have
pick,
forgotten.
I would have forgotten.
I would have forgotten. I would have forgotten. I had him on the list.
Yeah.
I think that the second round pick for the Chiefs, Sky Moore, wide receiver, apparently is somebody that a lot of teams wanted in the second round, and the fact that he went to the Chiefs and Mahomes
Hmm.
could prove to be very scary. And then I have Drake London, who is going to probably be wide receiver number 1 for the Falcons because still no Calvin Ridley. They're looking at Olamide Zacchaeus and Brian Edwards being their other 2 main
Okay.
wide receivers. If you can tell me what number either of those guys were, then you are a Falcons fan.
I'm down for Drake London, dude.
So I'm going to go ahead and buy some stock in Drake London.
Yeah. So,
All right, so let's run through some teams here. You just give me. We'll try to make this somewhat quick. Uh, Run through most of the teams. Just initial thoughts. I'm gonna give you the Cardinals here. That with Kyler Murray, James Conner,
so
Hollywood Brown.
my problem is Murray on that team.
Mhm.
It's like he's good, but he fell off a cliff last year. Why is he not going to fall off the same cliff this year?
Do you think the new contract actually makes it worse?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I'm kind of at the point of it could be good if Murray proves everybody wrong, but I think that more likely things stay the same.
Yeah.
Maybe they won't have a collapse in record. Maybe they'll
No.
just kind of be straddling the whole time.
Yeah.
Um,
At least there. And so I just think the new contract is not it.
yeah. Falcons with Marcus Mariota. They bring back Cordarrelle Patterson to be the
I
wide receiver
mean, to
running
be
back.
fair, like I I see that team can do okay.
That team can do okay, but they're also 29th in scoring defense.
Yes. But
So I think if they can't stop shit, then they
yeah,
aren't shit.
yeah, true.
But
But
that was
like
kind of
I
how
mean,
it's been with Matt Ryan
yeah, it was
when he was.
exactly the same. Like I don't think their defense changed. Their offense is like completely different. But
So we're in agreement. They're still in a rebuild. There's no real threat there.
Yep, exactly. So
Uh, Ravens with Lamar. We know what Tyler Huntley is capable of doing as a backup.
I
They get J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards back because they both went down with torn
so I
ACL.
have Lamar in my top 5 for quarterbacks. So you know what I think
Okay. So we're saying that Baltimore is a threat.
is a threat. Yes.
We don't know how much of a threat,
No,
but
but
a threat.
definitely a threat.
Buffalo.
I, even if Allen regresses, they're still a threat.
So they have the first scoring defense last year, which probably returns a lot of pieces, adds Von Miller.
Yep.
I'll say this. They don't have a running game with an actual running back.
Nope. But I don't think that like
That's my biggest factor, though.
yeah, but I still think they're a threat. Like they
I think
definitely
they're a threat, but they're easier to figure out if they're one-dimensional.
yes. I'll agree to that.
And as Josh Allen continues to age, you cannot put more on him.
Nope.
Carolina Panthers, they add our high school classmate Matt Ioannidis this year.
That does nothing.
Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield are competing for quarterback. McCaffrey's back. DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson.
See, my problem with this team is like there's still a lot of moving pieces, and I think that if Darnold starts, I'm a little more scared, but at the same time, I don't really think they're a threat.
Darnold had 9 touchdowns, 13 interceptions last year.
Yeah, but I think it's better than Mayfield.
I look, you know where I stand with Mayfield. Mayfield got screwed by the Browns.
Yeah,
He gave his heart to the city. I think that Mayfield is better than Darnold, but I think we're going to see them go back and forth, and
Yeah.
because of that, I don't think they're a threat. I think it's a short leash for whoever.
I don't think they're a threat. Even with like McCaffrey being back and all that, it's just not happening.
The Bears, they had the 22nd scoring defense last year.
Which is
for a
weird
team
because they're
that-
generally known for being better on the defensive side. I guess it's changed in
Right.
recent history.
Roquan Smith is on the trading block, and he is their best defensive player.
Yep.
We know what Justin Fields is in year 2. We know that David Montgomery is a horse of a running back, but they still have
they haven't done enough.
They're underwhelming.
Like their defense is like they're their best defensive players on the block, right? Like they haven't done anything to it. I don't see their defense allowing them to keep up.
Okay, so we're going to say that they're still rebuilding then. The Bengals. Do they? I mean,
okay. My problem with this is like every year it's like the Bengals are like there
Good
until
and
they're
then
not.
bad. Yes, the Bengals historically are good one year, like 11-5 back in the 16-game season. Then they would regress to 5-11 or something like that.
Yeah.
So uh, I'm weird on this too because I feel like I understand it's not Marvin Lewis's Bengals anymore, but like history just tells me that they were good one year, so things might reset this year. It could collapse. Somebody may get
Yeah,
hurt
but
on
at the
that
same
receiver core.
time, I think the start of the season really matters to them. Because
Yeah,
if they
that's fine.
can, if they can build some momentum in how they play, they'll be fine.
Well, they have Pittsburgh, Dallas, and the Jets to start.
Dallas, I mean, you never know about the East,
That's
but the Jets, yeah.
it. Very easily could be 3 wins.
Yeah.
Could probably at least two and
All
one.
right. The Browns, Mike. Hey.
Browns.
Yeah, their starter is definitely
It's
out for
all
6 weeks.
dependent. It's all starter dependent. Amari Cooper's
Yep.
there now,
Uh,
but
I don't know,
David
man.
Njoku really is still not figuring
I
out.
I don't think so. As much as Browns fans have hope,
I think
I guess.
even with Watson, like Watson didn't make the Texans like incredible
No.
when he was there. So I mean, they have pretty much the same weapons that Watson had in Houston,
Yep.
like talent level.
I don't see this team
Yeah.
like I at a minimum of 6 games that even a minimum of 6 games with Brissett. I just don't
I,
see it.
yeah, I think Brissett can be salvageable for 6 games.
Oh,
A lot.
he's
If
serviceable.
he,
Don't get me wrong, but
yeah, I
I
look when he at the start of his career came in to replace Brady because he was suspended. That's where the lure for him came from.
yep,
So obviously, in short increments, he's fine. But as we've seen over the years, he's
not good
just
long
not
term.
great. Cowboys.
I I
I think they
really
are
want to
what they
say they'll
are.
be terrible, but I know better.
I think they are what they are. We know that the NFC East is exactly what the NFC
Nope.
East always is. And the Cowboys, doesn't matter if they're 9-7, 12-4, they are what they
Dude,
are.
it's the East, man. Like it's so hard.
The fun thing is, Cowboys last year, first in scoring offense, seventh in scoring defense, and it didn't matter.
Yep,
Just did not matter.
did not matter at all.
Um,
All right,
Broncos.
they have Mile High, so Westbrook, right?
Wilson.
Wilson. That's what I meant. Why did I say Westbrook? Wilson. So I think the offense can pop off with Wilson.
Yes, I think the defense is still
It's still a big question mark.
really unknown. They
Yeah,
were third in scoring defense last year,
but they
and I
lost.
know Von Miller's older now, but
Yeah.
he was
I mean,
good.
I think they can pop off. So like, can Wilson carry them to wins? Yes, I think so. That
To a
makes them like a
degree.
fringe. Not
Yeah.
really, not
I'll,
really
I'll go ahead
scary,
and
but a
say
fringe.
I'll go ahead and say it's on the offensive line.
Yeah,
It has to be better than what Seattle was.
100%.
Uh,
Like,
Lions, I think they're on the upswing. I
yes,
don't know if they're contenders yet.
no,
I think
but they're
it's hard.
definitely on the upswing.
I think that they have a case to be second in their division this year,
Okay, I can see that.
potentially,
I can see
because
that.
I think we're all in agreement that the Packers probably, as long as Aaron Rodgers is there,
Yeah,
it's safe to assume no matter who's playing receiver, the Packers will find a way to win the division.
win games.
Uh,
Yes.
the Bears, we just don't know if they're competent enough yet, and I just can't trust Kirk Cousins. So
Mm-hmm.
I know Jared Goff is pretty much a game manager, but
Mm-hmm.
like I think that they're building something there. They really only have to win 8 games to be
Yeah. True.
on the
True.
upswing drastically.
All right.
Packers. I think we just
We
said
just said the Packers are going to win the division most likely as long as Aaron Rodgers is there. I don't see a reason to refute that.
Yeah. Texans. Davis Mills now running the show.
I
And they still have Brandon Cooks, but really the rest
uh,
of it is just
it
not
it's
pretty.
not it.
Yeah, it's not it. Also, their rookie John Mechie is out for the year. Receiver, I think he is diagnosed with a form of cancer. Um,
Dang. All right, Colts.
uh, I don't know, man. I feel like it's the same thing with Carson Wentz and Philip Rivers the past 2 years.
Yep.
The Colts are just doing this rent a quarterback in the late stage of their career thing, you know?
Yeah, I don't know how that's gonna go, but they're okay.
And they'll be on the
Yeah.
fence if their defense and offensive line allows them to be.
Yeah. Okay, Jaguars.
Uh, I think they could take a step forward. I have a
I
hard time
see them
believing that
taking a step forward, but not like
not a big one.
yeah.
I have a hard time believing a wide receiver group. I don't understand why they threw all that money at Christian Kirk.
Good luck finding
Christian
out.
Kirk was the third string or wide receiver 3 in Arizona.
Yeah.
Just don't understand why you threw 74 million at him.
I don't know. All right, Kansas City. They're fine.
They're
Mahomes
fine.
has Kelsey. He's
We know
fine.
we know that even if they start slow like last year,
Yeah.
they'll be fine.
Raiders.
Raiders. I don't know. I really don't know
I see them
because
taking a step forward.
I
What do I
I
think
don't.
that makes them like great? No.
There's just been too many times in the past, like Jerry Rice, Randy Moss. These top tier wide receivers get to the Raiders, and then something just happens.
No longer
I
Oakland.
so I think that I understand that Carr and Adams played together in college. I gotta see that they actually meshed for a few weeks
I mean,
to
I, s-
actually.
I think that again, I think like I mean the Raiders haven't been the best, but I think they get better. Yes.
Well,
Do
they
I think
made the
that means
playoffs.
anything? Not really.
Well, they made the playoffs last year and almost beat the Bengals in the wild card round.
Yeah,
So, are
but
we
do it.
really going to say that they're going to do better than that? Maybe they're like win the wild card now, but like
Yeah, maybe. I mean, do I like if even I'm saying
the,
they're getting better, I don't think it changes. Like they can get to the playoffs again. I have no doubt. But
the Raiders are also another one of those teams that when they make the playoffs, they tend to fall back the next year. So it really depends on the coaching too.
true, true. All right, Chargers.
I look, they were one. They screwed themselves out of making the playoffs last year.
Yeah.
Timeout call. I think that if Keenan Allen stays healthy, they're they're fine. They added Khalil Mack on defense. I don't know what that means at this
I
point in his
don't think
career,
that means
but
anything.
to see the Chargers investing in defensive players is kind of like a
Weird.
head turn. Yeah, so if it works out, I think that they can be. I don't want to say top 2 seed in the AFC. I think they're a 3 seed at best.
Yeah. I don't think they make
Uh,
top two. All right, Rams.
I don't think they repeat.
No.
I think that they're very competent. I think they could make a deep run.
But
I just think that their roster like has so much turnover each year that you have to get everybody gelling again,
mhm.
and that takes time.
Yeah. All right, Dolphins.
And
Do we
if
really have to say?
I don't trust Tua, I
I
really
don't.
don't.
It's not going to
I
go
didn't
well.
have Tyreek Hill in my top 5 wide receivers for
Yep.
just that reason.
I don't. It's not going to go well.
And I think that Jalen Waddle is a very good receiver who is going to get lots of love. Just takes away from Tyreek, and we'll find out if Tyreek really has an ego now.
Mm-hmm.
Vikings.
Uh,
I'm picking them last in the NFC North.
okay.
I mean, that's
I
just
think
me
they're.
personally.
I was gonna say they're 3-4. You know, I was gonna say they were three or third or fourth in their division.
I think they're healthier this year. I just don't think that they're better.
Fair enough. All right, the Patriots.
This one's weird. It all depends on how Mac Jones steps into year two. Because we know Mac Jones is not the
Fair.
most savvy. He's a game managing quarterback.
Fair.
But, like, I feel like game managing quarterbacks, as you see them more, are easier to game plan.
Mm-hmm. True.
So once you take away what he does best, what are the Patriots then? So that's
Fair
what we need to
enough.
figure out.
Do I still think the Patriots are okay.
I think they're okay. I think they're fringe wild card.
Yeah. I think they can make the wild card.
But I will say they're low floor or high floor, low ceiling.
Yeah, I don't think there's much variance.
Yeah, I don't think there's a lot of variance, but I do think there's some wiggle room to where that floor is. I think they could be somewhere between 6 wins, and I think they could be maxed out at 11.
Dude, I was gonna say 6 to 10.
Just considering that they did make the playoffs last year. So when a team makes the playoffs the previous year, I'll give them an extra win bump.
Fair
Just
enough.
for comfort. The Saints.
I
It all
mean,
depends on Jameis.
yes, and do a
Michael Thomas is back now.
yeah.
They have Jarvis Landry. And then they have Olave.
How much does that
It's-
do to the team, though? It's still I don't
it-
know.
I know I probably say this a lot, maybe too much. It all comes down to how well they mesh. Michael Thomas, when Breeze was the quarterback, didn't like when he wasn't getting enough targets. You look at Jarvis Landry and Chris Olave and tell me he's going to get more targets.
I don't think so.
Like, at least Jarvis Landry in Cleveland was kind of used to
Yeah,
not seeing the ball as much as other receivers.
true. All right, Giants.
Giants. I'm gonna let you take this one.
I
Do you have
don't.
any faith in Daniel Jones?
I mean, I think Daniel Jones is okay. I mean, do I think?
Is he as bad as media makes him to be?
I mean, I think
Or
he gets a
at least
lot of
social
flack
media?
from New York media where he's okay. He can
Mm-hmm.
play the game. Do I think he's gonna like lead the Giants ever to a bowl run? Hell no. That does not leave the Giants in a good spot. Like, how is Saquon gonna do this year? It's a big question mark.
So in terms of standings
Our
in the NFC,
depth chart is already like from training camp. Our depth chart is already going downhill in cornerback, where we don't have many on the depth chart, so it's not looking good.
okay, so you're gonna say third or fourth in the NFC East.
Yes, even though
Yeah.
it could totally be like a 7 and 10, third or fourth.
I think that's basically what the NFC East is.
Yep.
Jets. I don't know.
I don't.
I think if Zach Wilson actually like wants to be good and like works to be good, they have Michael Carter and Brees Hall, two workhorse backs. They have Corey Davis and Elijah Moore came on strong last year. Then they had Uzoma from the Bengals at tight end.
Okay.
I think they could be good. Like I don't,
I mean, my problem is like, do I
their
see them?
ceiling is
Do I see them
second
above what the Patriots or the Bills? Right?
no. I mean, I could.
I don't.
Here's the weird thing. Like the history tells us that it makes no sense to put the Jets above the Patriots. But at the same time, if that scenario plays out where the Patriots hit the floor instead of the ceiling, I can see the Jets.
Okay,
matching.
so I think like 9 times out of 10, you can't say the Jets are going to be above the Patriots. There is that chance, but I don't like. I still think they're
I understand that, but the Jets
fringe
can't
wild
constantly-
card. Like,
The
whereas
Jets can't.
whereas the Patriots should be a wild card team and have the potential to drop out, the Jets probably shouldn't, but could get that showing in a few games to make it. I think.
But the thing is, the Jets can't be in rebuild mode forever.
Yes, I agree.
And as we saw last year with Michael Carter and Elijah Moore, they have draft picks that are actually starting to hit now. Whereas when they did the Darnold rebuild, they were drafting guys who a year later were not on the team.
Mhm.
So when you have guys starting to hit, then the biggest question becomes the quarterback, Zach Wilson.
Yep.
So if Zach Wilson goes, then there's potential there. They have balance at running back, receiver, and tight end.
Fair enough.
I
I
don't
still
know
think they're like a
offensively
fringe
what
wild
they want.
card team.
I think that they can match New England's win total if New England underperforms.
Yes. I'll say that, but again, that relies on New England to
I
theoretically
think that they
underperform.
could get to 7 wins.
Yeah, fair enough. All right,
I
the
mean,
Eagles, another NFC.
I think they're the same as last year.
Uh,
I,
yeah, I
wild card loss.
it again, yeah, but that's like this division is not it.
It's not it, but if that division can get a wild card team, and look, you know as well as I do, playoff teams keep the wheels spinning forever. That's why Roethlisberger was a quarterback on a stagnant team for the last 3 years.
Yep. All right. And speaking of
Nobody wants
Roethlisberger
to
on a
rebuild.
stagnant team,
Yeah.
we have the Steelers.
I don't know. I really don't know. I think that there's somewhere
I
in
think your
between.
offense is holding you.
I think we're somewhere between potential wild card at best, and at worst, hopefully Tomlin keeps his non-losing
Season
season
thing.
streak alive.
I mean, it's easier now that you have
He's
17
five.
games.
Yeah, he's 500 or better every year in like the 16 years he's been a coach.
Yeah. All
So
right.
that's the bar.
All right. San Francisco.
I think they take a step forward because it's Trey Lance instead of Garoppolo
Mm-hmm.
now.
I'll agree
But
with that.
that being said, it can't be the repeat of last year where every running back gets hurt every week.
Yes. But
Somebody has to
they
stay
take a step
healthy.
forward. I agree. All right. Seattle.
Step back.
Yep. There's no question.
I used to be a potential believer of Drew Lock when he first came into the NFL, but he's just not good, man. And Geno Smith has been in the league a very long time, and he's a very good, capable backup. But if he was going to be the starter, he would have been it by now.
Yep.
One of these two guys is going to start, and it's not going to be for a good team.
Yep. And
This is like
Tampa.
Tyrod Taylor this is Tyrod Taylor with Cleveland.
Yep.
Tampa, I don't know. Like, I feel like they're the same as last year.
Yep. Same.
Divisional round, look, there's always going to be that component of Brady is the GOAT and stuff like that. But he is 40. This is his age 45 season.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, I know everybody in the world has said for the past 10 years eventually has to slow down, but it's like he mentally was ready to call it a day. And then, yes, he came back, but we'll find out how in it he
But
really
I
is.
don't think that they've changed much. So, yeah.
Look, we know that they have talent, but it can drop off heavily if something should happen to Brady, and he's not getting
All
any
right.
younger.
Tennessee.
TB12 method is not going to save you from a torn ACL.
Yeah. Tennessee.
And it only takes one sack. Tennessee, they lost. I know that their wide receivers weren't great last year. Like, A.J. Brown was great, but the rest weren't.
Mm-hmm.
I think Derrick Henry takes a step back. I don't know what Tannehill is right now.
Yeah, I don't.
know that they're really attached. I don't know that they're really attached to him, but at the same time, they don't like the fact that Malik Willis came into the first preseason game and they benched him for running the ball too much. So obviously, they want some kind of like
Passing.
balanced attack, and I think they actually take a step back.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with that. And the Washington football team.
Well, apparently, one of their better players, Antonio Gibson, is being called by their coach Ron Rivera as no better than any of the backups who are playing punt team coverage. So I'm going to go ahead and say that in the combination of Carson Wentz make the Commanders exactly what they've been.
Bottom
mean-
of our East, huh?
Bottom or third. Look, Carson Wentz.
Yeah, okay.
get
I
the
think the
statistic-
Giants are better than this team.
I understand that statistically Carson Wentz was horrible last year, but the Colts almost made the playoffs, and like for that reason, I'm going to say that Washington has a chance to be third
I think
because
they're
their-
like fourth.
despite Carson Wentz's best efforts in Philadelphia, in Indianapolis, he has somehow held serve on a competent team at times. So I mean, that's exactly what Washington is competent at times, but not consistently.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go ahead and say that nothing changes.
All right. Well, you got anything to close us out?
No, I think we actually breezed through that with relative speed compared to some of the other times where it probably would have taken us an hour. I think they only took us like 20 some minutes.
Yep. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in and catch you next time.